1.3.0 added a lot of interesting stuff to the table, especially new improvements that we can do in our builds, plus there are a lot of interesting new sigils that we can play with. So it is time to update the ultimate waifu in the game, who is Narmaya. I am the samurai and Narmaya was stronger than ever before thanks to the latest possible setups. Like way stronger if you are a Narmaya main, you will be seeing a lot of gains if you follow this guide. I'll be covering advanced combat tips for Narmaya that will improve your gameplay experience with her even more. And also prepare 3 types of build setups that will suit all playstyles of Narmaya users out there along with my usual damage test. Starting with advanced combat tips, and I will not be covering her gameplay basics, and if you want to learn how to play her, watch my Narmaya guide. Click the card here or check the description section below. Tip number 1 is take advantage of the improved butterfly UI. Narmaya receives a lot of significant buffs in the past updates, especially when talking about buffering her skills. However, the most important update that she received is the improved butterfly UI. I cannot stress how useful this is nowadays as I can monitor and manage my butterflies a lot easier compared in the past. So the first tip is to really try your best to manage your butterflies wisely, since we can now easily count and track our current butterflies and can have a stable and even stronger damage output compared to the past. As much as possible, cast Kyoka, Suigetsu, Transient, and most importantly Setsuna if you have 6 butterflies available to take advantage of these skills' max potentials. Moving on to the next tip, which is utilizing Narmaya's Warpath Sigil correctly. Since Warpath Sigils can finally have second traits, they are highly advisable to check if it will suit your character builds effectively. But for the case of Narmaya, it is non-negotiable as it provides 15% enhanced damage and a 10% supplementary damage whenever Narmaya performs a stand shift attack. Not only a 15% damage will largely increase your overall damage, but the 10% supplementary damage is a completely added damage on top of your current 20% supplementary damage, and the 20% Berserker Echoes provides, which is super insane. You will be seeing a lot of significant damage increase which can easily be maintained since you will be doing a lot of stand switch attacks anyways. However, the caveat is that it will lower Narmaya's SBA accumulation by 50%, which is noticeable and you will feel its effect. Endgame fights nowadays require strict SBA timings, so having your SBA on time is pretty much mandatory. But how can you do this if Narmaya's SBA gains is slow like a turtle? This leads me to my next tip. The next tip on the list is utilizing the Nimble Onslaught trait effectively. To offset Narmaya's Warpath's negative effect, it is mandatory to slot in a Nimble Onslaught Sigil and purposely perfect dodging enemy attacks to gain a significant boost to SBA. If you have been playing the game for quite some time now, perfect dodging normal attacks can be done naturally. However, if you can perfectly dodge a mechanic on purpose to gain SBA would be beneficial for Narmaya. Like for example, in the regular Lucilius fight, I'm perfectly dodging the moving shockwave during the 7 trumpets mechanic or perfect dodging the lasers in Lucilius' final rebellion phase. By the time the SBA is needed, you can ensure that Narmaya will be able to participate in a full burst mode. A level 16 Nimble Awesome trait provides 3% per perfect dodge, while a level 30 Nimble Onslaught will provide a 5% perfect dodge. This is just one of many examples, and there are a lot of mechanics in the game that you can easily perfect dodge, and if you fail to do this, Narmaya will most of the time will not be able to participate in SBA chaining. But before anything else, only 3% of you who watch the channel regularly are subscribed, so help the channel by subscribing today, and it's free anyway, and I will love you forever. If you can hit that like button as well, it will surely help me a lot. Join our Discord server as we are building an empire where you can find like-minded people who love the genre. Now back into the video. Now that the tips are out of the way, let's move on to Narmaya's updated builds, starting with her equipped Rightstones first. For Ameno Habakiri's Rightstone, on the other hand, since higher level of traits are now available in 1.3.0, it is advisable to slot in or use a Vitality Rightstone with a level 20 critical hit chance. This is mandatory so you can maintain a 100% critical hit chance. However, a level 20 critical hit chance will still require you to equip a critical hit chance sigil later on, and what it only does is you can roll the worst critical hit chance in your overmastery. You will have somehow a wriggle room for this one. For the second and third traits, it is hard to recommend exact traits due to RNG reasons, and you might kill me by just looking at my second and third Rightstone traits right now. But I will not suggest having supplementary damage on it, rather work with what you have. It's just that I felt like I won the lottery for having this trait combination. The right advice is that I usually roll with the right stones first before slotting in my sigils later on, so I will know which trait will I adjust, since the right stone can possibly free up a sigil slot due to its level 15 and level 10 traits. Now moving forward, depending on what traits you will get with your rolls, just adjust it according to the builds that what I will be suggesting later on. Moving on to mastery next, and as mentioned previously, you will have a lesser requirement of critical hit rate thanks to the level 20 right stone. However, normal attack damage cap up 20% and skill damage cap up 20% are still mandatory. The third slot should be an attack bonus, preferably 1k added points. Suggested right stone is out of the way, let's discuss my recommended sigils and trait setups. As promised, I will be providing 3 sets of setups depending on how good you are in the game or depending where you are in the game. Take these 3 builds as a progression route. Starting with my offensive setup first, and indeed this setup is one of the best currently. This setup is recommended for experienced players since it lacks a lot of defensive utility. You'll be seeing the latest toys here such as Optimized Sub Damage 5+, War Elemental Plus, and Berserker Echo Plus. I know it will take ages and eons to get these sigils, which is why I prepared 3 setups for you. If you can make this first setup work, no worries, I have 2 other builds for you coming right after this one. So the first one on the list is Narmaya's Awakening Sigil, and these are the mandatories for Narmaya. Butterfly Grace for easy butterfly generation, and Butterfly's Valor grants Narmaya the ability to not consume her butterflies after using a skill. The next trait on the list is the mandatory level 65 damage cap, and by now we all know that it is mandatory to reach the highest damage possible. Next is a level 30 gamma trait, which provides a general 30% damage cap boost to this build, along with a bonus shield that activates and nullifies up to 50k damage after activating your SBA. Next up is having a level 45 supplementary damage trait, and this is a must to take advantage of its immense additional damage. In the latest patch, you only need 2 good sub 5+ to reach level 45, but it will require you huge amount of time when farming these sigils. So in your optimal setup, you will be allotting 2 slots still for supplementary damage 5+. So in this build, remove quick charge and cascade sigil slot instead and slot in the supplementary damage 5+. A huge percentage of Narmaya's damage comes from this trait, so it is highly suggested. Moving on to the next one, which is a level 15 Berserker Echo trait. This is by far my favorite trait lately, as it adds another 20% additional damage on top of your current 20% from your original supplementary damage. The caveat is you need to reach 25k attack stat to have its effect permanently on. This is huge, as having 40% additional damage is way too high, so I highly suggest trying your best to get this and maxing your original sub damage, and the numbers that I will be showing you later on will speak for itself. So in the case of Narmaya, you will have a whopping 50% bonus supplementary damage overall, which is totally nuts. The next trait on the list is a level 16 Skilled Assault Sigil, which provides a 72% skill damage boost to this build, making Narmaya's skill stronger, especially Setsuna, and reaching its cap, so this is a highly suggested trait for her still. The next trait on the list is a level 16 Quick Cooldown trait, and having at least a level 16 Quick Cooldown provides 10.2% skill cooldown reduction. Usually if you do have a quick cooldown, you do have at least a level 16 Cascade as well. This will lessen your skill cooldown by 1.6% when you hit an enemy, and its effect is greatly noticeable, especially for Narmaya. The next trait on the list is a level 16 Tyranny trait, which adds 36% attack to this build, and it will help you reach the 25k attack stat requirement of the Berserker Echo Sigil. Another trait is to have at least level 16 critical hit rate, which provides 20% additional critical hit chance, and this will help us achieve the 100% critical hit chance requirement. The good old level 16 Stamina trait is still suggested for more damage. The 51% additional attack that this trait provides is still recommended for this build. The next trait on the list is a level 16 Combo Booster trait, which gives 72% damage boost when successfully connecting attacks. You will be spamming a lot of combos with Narmaya, and if you can maintain it, you will be dealing with huge numbers because of this trait. Now, it is worth mentioning that if you are a veteran Narmaya user, changing Combo Booster with a level 15 Glass Cannon will skyrocket your DPS even more. But if you're not confident enough, please don't slot this in, as it will be the cause of your deaths mostly. Since the Warpath Sigil's effect is reliant on Narmaya's stance change attacks, slotting in a level 16 quick charge trait is a must. It will help you maintain the Warpath's effect more easily since you can cycle through Dawnfly in free flutter stance much faster thanks to the faster charge time. It will tremendously quicken Setsuna's charge time as well, so slotting this trait is highly advisable and it will improve Narmaya's DPS by a ton. Since we do have slots to play with thanks to the recent update, I decided to put in a level 15 potion hoarder trait which lets you access 3 green potions, 5 blue potions, 5 mega potions, and lastly +2 revival potions. Indeed one of the best traits in the game. Next on the list is the improved dodge trait as it increases iframes window and dodge count by 4. I highly recommend slotting this trait especially when dodging bosses attacks and mechanics continuously. The next trait on the list is of course the mentioned Nimble Onslaught trait. If you can slot in a double Nimble Onslaught trait, that will be beneficial. Of course, every build has a War Elemental trait granting the build superior element over any target and taking advantage of that 20% additional damage. Now it can have a second trait as well, so this insane build was made possible. Now that the offensive setup is out of the way, it's time for the general setup. The majority of Narmaya user will lean into this as this build has all the key defensive traits while maintaining good damage overall. For the sake of the video, I will be showing the setup on the screen right now, so feel free to pause it. What we can observe here is this build has Narmaya's Warpath sigils and also relies on the free potent greens with supplementary damage sigil which anyone can get now from the latest Roland's quest that was made available in 1.3.0, plus a regular supplementary damage 5 which anyone can easily farm from Galanza. Check my curio guide for more details and I'll link them below. If you want to add Berserker Echo here as well or another supplementary damage 5, you can do so, just remove a defensive trait according to your preference. So the general setup is done. Moving on to the beginner setup. This build was designed for all the beginners out there and this build can slot in a lot of the key defensive traits and only relies on the free supplementary damage that Roland provided and the 10% supplementary damage of the Warpath sigil. With a good RNG, this build can still hit hard and the damage stats will prove this later on. As mentioned previously, take these builds as a progression starting from the beginner build to the offensive build. The overall builds are out of the way, let's now move on to damage test. In this section, I will be providing damage results samples from the regular Lucilius for better results and will be showcasing all the 3 builds provided. To produce a stable damage output, I will be using Zeta, Eugen, and Sandalphon as my AIs across all tests with no buffs included. Starting with the beginner builds first, we can observe an 81M to 90M in terms of total damage dealt, following up with a 150k to 181k for the damage per second, proving that the beginner build hits hard despite of not having the key offensive traits. Clear times usually last around 4 minutes and 47 seconds to 5 minutes and 7 seconds. Moving on to the general setup, which is going to be the staple build for many, and we are getting a 3M to 98M for the total damage dealt, while a stable 190k to 196k damage for its damage per second. Huge leap compared to the beginner setup. Clear times vary from 4 minutes and 37 seconds to 4 minutes and 45 seconds. It is time for the offensive setup and things will start to get crazy here. We can observe a 103M to 106M in terms of total damage dealt, following up with a whopping 234k to 274k for the damage per second, which is totally insane. This could be even higher if we do have buffers around. Clear times are way faster, of course, ranging from 4 minutes and 3 seconds to 4 minutes and 11 seconds. However, in terms of total damage, someone will ask, hey Samurai, if this offensive build is way better compared to the general setup, why the total damage is still around the 100M range? The answer is simple. I have optimized my AIs even more and Sandalphon is included so everyone is performing optimally, thus Lucilius will die faster. If they are underperforming, you can easily see a 120M to 130M total damage range here for Narmaya. Just look at the total DPS and the offensive build is way stronger compared to the other builds. Of course, look at its faster clear times. Now that I've updated my top character in the game, I can finally say that I did justice for this gal. Comment down below all the things that you've learned so far, as it means a lot to me. If you are new to Relink and want to know how to play Narmaya, these videos will help you a ton. Thank you for watching and I will catch you on the next one.